right, welcome back. This is the Energy Outlook, and my name is Wisdom Chapp Jumbo. Now, we get to our conversation today as we look at critical issues affecting the power sector, the energy sector in itself. And my guest is here to make sense of some of my questions I need to ask as we'll quickly unpack in a short possible time what could be the formal solution, what could be the issues affecting the sector. My guest is Jide Pratt. He's Chief Operating Officer of ANIO. How do you pronounce this? You help me. Is it Aniona?
Iona.
Iona, okay, and country manager of Trade Grid. Before I get to the convention, GD, tell us about Trade Grid. Really, I've been always wanting to ask you, what do you do at Trade Grid?
Thanks for talking to me, Wisdom. So what we do at Trade Grid, what we started was to try and find a hub where we could put buyers and sellers in one location on an app. So remember when the president came and said subsidy was gone?
Yes.
We found that people could no longer buy trucks of petroleum products.
Yes.
So the first thing we did was try to regulate that sector by putting them on an app and then sharing one truck in 3 compartments. So 3 people in the same area who buying cost has gone up for, buy 1 compartment each. Based on that, they pay back into the app on a day-to-day basis for 5 days. When we started that and grew up to 2,000, 3,000 people on our app, the next thing was now to target the same retail stations and say that, look, back to what you're talking about, band A, band B, and band C. And we now started giving solar solutions to retail station owners with flexible payment for 16 months. So we call ourselves someone who's come into the industry to aggregate, and we have big things in our minds that we're going to do.
You just hit the point there. You said when the president said subsidy was gone. I mean, different chaos happened. We're happy where we are now. We're not where we used to be. But do you think the energy prices in Nigeria will come down anytime soon? And what needs to happen if this, I mean, because since subsidy was gone, everything went high. The cost of gas, the cost of everything, and that affected power in itself. And right now, the cost of PMS, has tripled since May 29, 2023. What do you think energy prices in Nigeria will come down anytime soon?
So the first question, do I think it will come down? Yes. Anytime soon, maybe not. So think about it this way. Energy prices, whether we want to accept it or not, are tied very, very highly to the cost of crude oil. So when crude oil prices go up, it affects everything in a spiral. There is no half and half. Energy prices tend to go up when crude oil prices go up. However, if you look at Nigeria as a nation, most of the energy that is generated in Nigeria comes from either gas or maybe hydro to a large extent. So let's go back to gas. If gas distribution and supply increases, and why do I say that? Gas is one thing that you cannot use if you do not put infrastructure around it. You must pipe gas, you must capture it, and then push it to the point of use. So I said that to say this. If gas as a product, the infrastructure around it, if it develops in Nigeria, what you begin to find out is that the more infrastructure we have around gas, the more gas finds we're able to capture. Ideally, you'll find out that as we scale, efficiency drives into it.
Okay.
We're not there yet, but we're on the way there. So look at things like the AKK gas pipeline. Okay. Right now, we were clear about the fact that it's gotten to Ajaokuta. Okay. If gas as that AKK pipeline moves beyond Ajaokuta to Kaduna and Kano, then what you have is that gas has flown into that region. Economies of scale, wet, dry, tie-in, tap-ons. You see, those kind of things generate economic activity, and then you can begin to see gas prices begin to go down. That might be one way to put it in a nutshell.
Interesting. So let me bring you back to power, the debate. Now, we were introduced to band A, band B within the power sector at some point. And one of the reasons they said it to be easier, if we remove subsidy, we remove it bit by bit, the band A people will pay a different amount, they will pay more. and gradually all the feeders will be upgraded to band A. We'll get 20 hours supply, and I mean that was the system that came in at that point in time. And of course, if you remember, that's also a way they wanted to also maybe raise revenue for. I mean, I don't know, different reasons that were given to that. Now, we've done that for a while now. Do you think this new system is really working, band A or not, or people are just being charged more without better service?
Let's put it in perspective. Every time that you pay for a service,
Okay.
as a human being, you demand that once I've parted with money, that services or those services are my right.
Okay.
Now, there's no perfect scenario. So you find out more often than not in life, we have to iterate. So let's start from the beginning. We had a system where revenue assurance did not exist.
That's correct.
So what they tried to do was that if we segment the market where some people are paying more, I call it banditry. That band A was what started it.
Banditry is a perfect word.
So we put a few people in a bucket and say that, look, you are the highest users.
Okay.
And if you're the highest users, then you should pay premium. That is fine.
Okay.
However, what was missing in this conundrum is that metering had not happened.
Exactly.
So if you go back to revenue assurance, we're talking about if I have 10 people using power, I must meter 10 people for two reasons. I can confirm what they're using in terms of revenue on my end.
Correct.
And then I can confirm what they're paying for. I do believe as we are now, we have instances where more people are getting to the point where they're paying for what they use, and energy management has come into it. But we're not nearly there. There's still a lot of people who are not getting the power as at when due and are being billed for it. So you could say, in a nutshell, you'd say that some people are being taken advantage of. The revenue that is supposed to be assured is even still not assured. If we went one step further, you go to things like legacy payments around the value chain, from generation, transmission to distribution. Monies in that system are still not yet assured. So while the band A has started, it's not yet solved the pain point for everybody. But I also think that if we do not solve the problems across the value chain, it might not be Uhuru anytime soon. That's what I'd say.
So Jide, now you bring us to another part of the conversation. So what then lies the solution? What solves it? You know, we're both at that business, the energy event just recently, and you see that this conversation also came up on. So how do we solve the issue of payment? If we want to solve this problem once and for all, what seems to be the solution that will solve it?
I mean, the missing link is still the metering system wisdom. So if we look at it any way we want to talk about it, there's when you say something about, okay, yes, we're going to give 7 million meters, we're going to give. I keep on asking the question, how did we get to these numbers? The question is today, what is the meter gap? If the meter gap is 13 million, if the meter gap is 17 million, then it means that to be able to assure revenue in that value chain, two things must happen. Number one, 17 million people must have meters. You can measure what, and they pay for what they use. That's number one. MDGs, government agencies, a lot of times you find out that distribution companies are saying that so and so is owing us so much. Because what it is they've used power that has not been paid for.
Yeah.
So those distribution companies are bleeding. Now let's take it a step backwards and go to the generation companies. There are also legacy payments that need to have been made that have not yet been made. So number one solution is to meter everybody that uses power. That is a cardinal rule. And it's very easy. We must begin to make our meters equipment that are off the shelf. I walked into a certain location, I can buy and vend a meter. And of course, standard organization will do a lot of work in this regard.
So, but that seems difficult to achieve. I like what you said. Sorry to cut you there to butt in. I like what you said. Walk into a store, buy a meter and vend it. You know, but it seems that it's difficult to get there. What is the hula baloo around metering or getting meters? That we don't know if it's a disco that will give us meter or if it's we have to buy it ourselves or something. We are still not clear around that.
I think the issue is standardization. If I can walk into a shop and buy a remote control, I can buy a telephone. We must make that meter system something that I can buy off the shelf. So number one, we standardize it. This is the kind of meter. Any and everybody that can meet this requirement of meter, bring it in. Any and anybody that needs some kind of government support to manufacture it, manufacture it. What will that do, Wisdom? It will scale the availability of those meters. And they're not complex. We're not trying to invent a rocket science tool. We're just trying to look for a vending machine. A POS machine, quote and unquote, is a vending point.
It's a vending,
so
okay.
It's to develop something that is quick, enabling, and we have so many platforms in Nigeria to integrate onto this. So that's the first thing, standardize the meters, let any and everybody that can meet that standard, let them bring it in. Stop keeping it with whether it's Disco, whether it's Genco. We have changed laws, people should be able to walk in, buy their meters, get people to come and connect it, and we move on with our lives. I think that is missing.
Amazing. So I just announced in one of the news I read that Abia state government now have, full control as NEC has, sort of transferred the power to them now. I mean, they've been able to create their policy and their market and all of that. So my next question to you now is, now that the states, have their own, power decisions, or can make their own decision from generation, transmission, and distribution, do we see them adopting this kind of strategy you have proposed, or what are the more other creative ideas that we want to see them, adopt to improve electricity in the states? Because we cannot replicate the same problem that we're having with the national grid, that we're having at the national level, at the state level. I don't know if you have been following some of the states that have been able to get control from NEC. What are you seeing, and what are some of the smart ideas we can give to the states?
Okay, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. But Wisdom, let's be clear. I don't think every state needs to have or generate or distribute their own power. It must be commercially viable for each one of the states.
Okay.
So let's go specific. If you went to somewhere like Abia State, it is a nerve center for commerce.
Yes.
So what it does mean is that if it is a nerve center for commerce, and let's even use the word industrialization, these are places where whatever powers they generate, whatever power they distribute, we can argue that it is a commercially viable business model.
Okay.
Now, don't forget that in all these things we say, you have to distribute within your state. So I think the law might get a bit more flexible as we go. Maybe look at it that, can we begin to zone power, not outside states, but in regions? I don't know the answer to that yet. If you also look at it, innovative solutions, do we start flexible and dynamic pricing? Do the industries pay a certain tariff compared to home? Do the industry's rates in terms of per kilowatt hour, does it change in the daytime or in the nighttime? What do you do around things like hospitals? Do you parry the pricing in such a way that the whole number around a certain region is able to accommodate those pricing? So they need to be very, very, very clear about the fact that there must be dynamism in pricing. That's number one. The second thing is that they must also look at it that, look, do we want to be able to move from the closest state next to us and then use, again, back to trying to put efficiency in order based on scale? These are things that we need to look at. Smart metering has to be something that states can decide and say, look, the same way you can vend your your mobile phone, you can vend at home. But again, you must be able to find practical solutions within the state in terms of metering, revenue assurance, vending, and commercially viable power. I think those might be some of the things as they strengthen their laws. I believe Enugu State, Lagos State, these are states Abia seem to be steps ahead. But then again, the ask is that, are they commercially viable? Some states will have more viability than some. And in the case where they have excess, what happens? I think the law should be able to address that so they can sell to neighboring states.
I mean, personally, I want to see, how the states are going to manage some of this as they go on, because I know as we go into 2027, at the center of all the conversations and campaigns now will be, we are going to provide you power. So I want to see how all of that will play out, but some of the innovative ideas, and this brings me to my next question that I'm hoping to ask you is, renewable energy, are we doing enough? I know it's been a journey. I like to say it's been a journey. If you compare to 10 years ago, when you hear solar, I mean, just a few persons could understand what solar is. But when I look at the market now, I see there's a surge one. I see adoption is growing fast. But are we using it enough as we should, especially to be an alternative to the grid as we are seeing it? So my question to you is, where do you see us need to do more with renewable energy sources like solar? In the next coming years, what are you looking at now? If you look at vis-a-vis our journey towards adoption of solar in Nigeria.
Okay, thanks again, Wisdom. I think that, and I like the word you use, it's a journey. We haven't gotten to the destination. We're much better than where we are. So if you look at it, that virtually everybody you know has an inverter unit in their house. They use a rechargeable lamp. I've been on an inverter since 2008 or 2009. I'm not off grid yet, but you also find a lot of people are going off grid because they've taken that capital investment. They've taken that capex investment by going off grid. So what you find out is that as we continue to grow, organizations like REA are doing quite a lot of work in that regard. You find out they're able to go to the rural areas, and we're beginning to find smarter solutions. Again, one of the things I told you we do at Trade Grid is that we're trying to get people off grid where they need to be with smaller inverter units. If I have 2 pumps, what is my rate? If I have 4 pumps, what is my rate? If I have 10 pumps, what is my rate? So you can scale across that model. So you find out that a lot of power now has moved from grid to renewable. What are the next few things we need to do? Companies like, I believe LPV are making inverter panels right now locally. That needs to grow. Remember also a lot of conversation at a certain time, should we ban solar panels? Absolutely not. Okay. At this stage where we're trying to scale, you must allow as many entrants come in. Ring fence the quality. As prices begin to drop, you'd find out that with more inflow, what it is that it becomes easier for people to pay. Flexible payment models. If we're talking renewable space, one of the things we also do in another company called Iona that I work with is that we're trying to take public street lighting off the grid. Why are we powering our streets by lights that are not solar? I think Lagos State also has that solar light up initiative. Yeah. So you see, these are the things that will help it grow. Some people are running what you call inverter systems, mini grid systems. So we are progressing. Once we start a situation where we can backward integrate into manufacturing some of those plants or some of those, let me say, the indices across batteries, natural lithium, things like that will help us continue to grow. Donor funding is also helping to a large extent. Carbon credits are things that are also working. And, like I said, we'll continue to iterate. It's not yet Uhuru. We're better than where we are. But there is still so much room we need to catch up. And with 220 million people, there's no reason we shouldn't be at advanced stages. I think one of the things that the new tax law also does is that it takes, I believe it exempts VAT, if my memory is right, from renewable energy. These are things that are critical. These are things that we must have policy consistency around, and we continue to move. But I think we're much better than where we are, but it's not yet Uhuru again.
I know there was a report at some point that said they wanted to ban the importation of solar panels. That engulfed the entire space at some point, and a bit of clarity came in here and there. What do you think about that? Do you also think we should ban the importation of solar panels, or we are not there yet? Let's give it more time.
No. Wisdom. I mean, those conversations should not even come up. Okay. When you want to accelerate the use or penetration of something, what you do is allow it coming from any and everywhere. You can ban the irregularities around quality. So standardize the quality of panels that is coming in. As companies like, again, I mentioned LPV, they started manufacturing. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Open the floodgates, will ring fence the quality. But what it means is you're making so many options available. Once you now get to a certain stage, and let's say we've hit 60%, we've hit 70%, then you can increase the taxes, not ban, on imported, so that there's a disincentive. And then there's an incentive to continue to buy locally. And these are how we need to get these things done. It's not rocket. When people come and just think about policies that are neither here nor there, it's really worrisome for me. But I mean, ban is not even anything we should be talking about in this stage. Let's get to where we want to go, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, we'll take a breather, Jide. We've got a quick break. When we come back, I have a few more questions. I shift this conversation a bit to things like CNG. What's happening within that entire space, as that is driving quite a lot of conversation now. Many have said it is solving a problem for us. Many have said it's a long walk. We're not there yet. I would like to get your thoughts on it, but we'll go on a quick break. Stay with us. When we come back, Jide is still with us.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I know it's still light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need lights.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business. All right, welcome back. And this is still the Energy Outlook. I've been talking to Jide Pratt, and we've been discussing some of the critical challenges in Nigeria's energy sector. Quite informative, and many fresh ideas to how we can tackle some of these problems. And I take you to another direction now. Jide, are you still with me? Okay, I can't seem to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, you're back. You're back. All right. So let's talk about CNG. It's been I don't know, someone tried to call it. It's been the baby of the government, as they have been rolling out different initiatives around CNG, and quite a lot is happening. And many have agreed that it is cheaper than the fuel we have. Many vehicles are changing. But many people say it's a long walk, as we're not there yet to fully adopt CNG. So my question to you, even though it's a cleaner and cheaper fuel option, How much progress have we made so far with CNG, in your view? And where do you think we're heading in about 2 years?
Thanks again, Wisdom. So I'm going to say this. Nigeria is, and I tell people this at almost every forum, we're a gas nation with oil. Our focus has always been on oil. So let's go to CNG, compressed natural gas. It's for
Yes.
auto. I was opportune yesterday to sit down with, and I dare say this without any, without batting an eyelid, a group of stellar people who work with the Residential CNG initiative. We were at a gathering that was speaking to retrofitting in terms of diesel trucks to move to CNG. Let me start by saying that the first impact of that, if you change a car from petrol to CNG, the first impact is that cost saving, if we get it right, movement of people, produce, services from point A to B, if it is reduced in terms of the cost of fueling, then it translates to how much people spend on the market. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, it's a dual fuel. So it's not as if you're jettisoning your fuel, but you're beginning to find workable balances. 55-45, 70-30. Those are the things that what will I put it, will drive it. So I think they've done a great job so far. Again, we've not yet reached the destination. But this is what it means. It means that if automatically when they started, let's say they had 9,000 cars, they must begin to push their milestones. Which they're doing is that on auto, they're increasing conversions. On infrastructure, don't forget that CNG is compressed natural gas. So
Yes.
It's basically methane. But it means that you must have a mother station and then you must have a daughter station to dispense. So it means that with every kilometer or mileage that we continue to go, what they've been doing is that they're driving that narrative. It's safe, number one. It gives you cost advantages in terms of auto, number two. Available points are now what is being developed. You can't develop everything together in one day. So you must begin to crawl, then you begin to walk. You begin to jog, then you begin to run. Do I think they're doing a good job? Without a shadow of a doubt, I think so. Do I think more can be done? Yes. You look at organizations like the Nigerian Railway Corporation, they were at that event. You look at people like the Nigerian Army, there was a very, very interesting gentleman, one major general, who said they were the guinea pigs. But the point was that they were the guinea pigs and it's working. They're seeing some pros, they're seeing some cons. They were open enough to share some of the issues around it. Look at the way it generates income. A lot of people are opening conversion centers and are feeding their families from there. Now, we're bringing in kits as it is now, but even in that bringing in kits, you need people to do the conversion. Wisdom, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Look at the fact that the government is putting so much behind it. I tell people that even right now, you're probably buying CNG, and if I were to use a Naira conversion to liter, maybe 260, it's subsidized. But even if it got to 400 or 450 without the subsidy, it is still cheaper than fossil fuel. So it's a journey we should embrace with two hands and continue to walk the walk till we get to the destination.
Okay. I like that. I mean, I was supposed to have the chief executive of the Presidential CNG Initiative on the program today because many questions I want to ask him is around the progress. Where are they? What are they doing now? Because we need the mother stations to really go around. But I wanted to know, I don't know if you have an idea, where are they really on those mother stations? Do you think they've been able to have a proper spread, or we need to give them at least maybe a year or two more?
I would say another year or two, because you see, with mother stations, it's capital intensive. But at the same time, you don't want to build mother stations that, quote and unquote, are more than requirement. So I met a very interesting, and I think those people, they run on, I'm not so sure they have blood in their veins anymore. It's just CNG. But their desire to explain to you what they're doing is infectious. So I met people in the engineering. I met that gentleman, Engineer Mike. I met people like that. They were so clear on what they needed to do. They're not there yet, but I think they're scaling. He would be the best person to give us actual numbers. Okay. But I do know that if you look at it critically, the major hub points now have a combination of mother and daughter. And I'm assuming they're also still using virtual pipeline network at the interior. till they get to where they're going. We're
But
working.
but people changing their cars to use CNG, I feel like it's going to be a major a major campaign around that. There's still a lot of scare. But Dangote now rolling out his trucks, to distribute fuel to filling stations. That said the 4,000 trucks will be running on CNG. So that seems like a major shift. Would that disrupt the market in a positive way, or you see that maybe that would take off Dangote wants to just take off the entire market himself? What do you think about that?
I'm very clear about the fact that every market must not have a single player.
Okay.
So there is some disruption, but it also means that we need to begin to look at hubs. There are people who've been in this business for 20 years. What happens to them? Do they just die off? He's taking a large chunk of that market. What the regulators need to sit down and agree is that how much of the market is too much control. But is it positive? It reduces the amount of fossil fuels in terms of transportation. That is one positive. So the second question might be, what is the effect on the road? Should we be doing more distribution by haulages? Should we be doing it by pipeline? Should we be doing it by vessel? I think we must have a mix of everything. I think it's a large percentage of the market to have, but going back to CNG, I think those trucks being powered reduces emission. That's a definite. But again, the regulators need to be up on doing so that we don't have a case where we have only one player in the market. That will be counterproductive.
Amazing. Before I let you go, one more question is innovation, technology seems to be at the center of many conversations now. How do we digitalize our processes? AI in itself is coming into the mix. So what can we do? What are your thoughts around this for the energy sector? What can this do differently for us? I know, you've spoken a few times on some of these things, so I want to throw that to you now. What are your thoughts around it really? Innovation, are we going to embrace this, especially AI, for the energy sector?
I don't think we have a choice. So Wisdom, let me tell you something again. I talked about trade grid when we started. And when we started, we were able to say that, look, you don't need to physically go to the depot and call 72 people before you can make a product purchase. Everything we're doing from the trade grid app. Okay. We're placing orders. We're finding out where the market prices are. People are logging and making payments into their wallet. For us, our trade grid is a way of life now. So with technology, if you don't embrace it, with all due respect, you're just going to become a relic. We've started. Information data gathering needs to increase, but I think that we're all primed. Everybody has an ERP they're using for trading. So I think we're there already. It's just for people to embrace it.
And I hope we indeed embrace it very soon. As like you said, we have no choice. And a few times I've spoken to a few experts on the show. They tell me, look, Wisdom, investment now needs to go into digitalization of a lot of processes. As unless we do that, maybe we'll just be left behind. As even the global energy space maybe is even having that full transition and embracing technology in itself. I should not be able to go to the depot to book. I should be able to have an app where I simply just book it, the way I just order my Uber to come in front of my house. So we should be able to do something around that. But thanks a lot, Jide. You've been very, 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 very helpful. There are more questions I want to ask you, but I think at this point I have to let you go. But thanks a lot for making the time. Please, we'll bring you back a couple of more times when we see things are changing around the conversations we have had so that we can get a follow-up on it and, of course, get your thoughts. But thank you a lot for the program.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Wisdom. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Amazing. Wow, Jide there, and quite an interesting conversation we've been having there. We'll go on a quick break. And when we come back, we'll switch gears on the conversation a little bit and briefly look at, like I said, conferences